Captain Ji-won Park stood on the bridge of the stellar dawn, watching the stars through the large viewing window. She had been commanding this exploration ship for 8 years, but today felt different. The deep space sensors were picking up something strange near the edge of human territory. "Captain, we have an unknown contact," called out Communications Officer Min-ho Lee from his station. His voice carried a note of confusion that made Ji-won turn around quickly. "What kind of contact?" she asked, walking over to look at his screen. "It's big, Captain. Really big. And it just appeared out of nowhere." Min-ho's fingers moved across his controls, trying to get a clearer reading. "The energy signature is unlike anything in our database." Ji-won felt her heart skip a beat. In 75 years of space exploration, humanity had learned to be careful about unknown contacts. Too many ships had been lost to hostile aliens or dangerous phenomena. "Put it on the main screen," she ordered. The bridge's large display lit up with a view of empty space. Then, without warning, a brilliant flash of white light erupted from nowhere. The entire bridge crew shielded their eyes as the light grew, brighter and brighter. When it finally faded, something impossible hung in the darkness of space. "My God," whispered Science Officer Yuna Choi. "That's a human ship." But it wasn't just any human ship. Ji-won recognized the basic shape immediately, even though it had been transformed beyond recognition. The long cylindrical hull, the massive cargo bays, the distinctive engine configuration. It was the New Horizon, the colony ship that had vanished 75 years ago. "That's impossible," said Security Chief Hyun-woo Nam, stepping closer to the screen. The New Horizon was lost during the first faster-than-light experiment. There were no survivors. The ship on the screen looked nothing like the simple colony vessel that had left Earth decades ago. Its hull gleamed with a strange metallic surface that seemed to bend light around it. Energy patterns flowed across its surface like living lightning. Most shocking of all, it was at least twice as large as it should have been. "Captain," Min-ho said, his voice tight with excitement. "I'm receiving a transmission." "Put it through," Ji-won ordered. Though every instinct told her to be careful, the bridge speakers crackled to life, and a calm, male voice filled the room. "This is Captain Dae-ho Kim of the Earth colony ship New Horizon. We request permission to dock with your vessel." Ji-won exchanged glances with her officers. The voice spoke perfect Standard Galactic, the common language used by all human colonies. But Standard Galactic had been developed only 30 years ago, long after the New Horizon had disappeared. "This is Captain Ji-won Park of the Stellar Dawn," she replied carefully. "Please identify yourself and explain how you came to be here." "Captain Park, I am the grandson of the original Captain Kim who commanded this vessel when it left Earth. We have been living on a world called Kepler 442c for the past 7 years. We have returned to share what we have learned." 7 years? Ji-won felt a chill run down her spine. According to Earth records, the New Horizon had been missing for 75 years. Either these people were lying, or something very strange had happened to them. "Captain Kim," she said slowly, "our records show that your ship has been missing for 75 years, not 7. There was a pause before Dae-ho replied. "We understand your confusion, Captain Park. Time flows differently where we have been. We would be happy to explain everything, but it would be easier to do so in person. May we dock with your ship?" Hyun-woo stepped closer to Ji-won and spoke quietly. "Captain, this could be a trap. We don't know who these people really are." Ji-won nodded but continued studying the transformed ship on the screen. If these really were the missing colonists, they represented the greatest discovery in human history. If they were enemies in disguise, her ship and crew were in terrible danger. "Mr. Lee," she said, "scan their ship for weapons." Min-ho worked at his console for several minutes before looking up with a puzzled expression. "Captain, I can't get clear readings. Their hull seems to be interfering with our sensors, but I'm not detecting any obvious weapon systems." "Dr. Choi," Ji-won continued, "what's your analysis?" The science officer had been studying her own readings. "Captain, the energy patterns coming from their ship are completely unknown. Their power source appears to be generating more energy than should be physically possible. Either they've made incredible technological advances, or this is some kind of illusion. Ji-won weighed her options. As an exploration captain, her duty was to investigate unknown phenomena, but as a military officer, her first responsibility was to protect her crew and ship. "Captain Kim," she said finally, "we will allow a small delegation from your ship to board ours, no more than 5 people, and they must submit to security scans." "Understood. Captain Park, we appreciate your caution. Our shuttle will dock with your bay in 20 minutes. As the transmission ended, Ji-won turned to her crew. "All senior officers to the briefing room, security teams to the docking bay, and someone wake up Dr. Lim. We're going to need our xenopsychologist for this." 20 minutes later, Ji-won stood in the docking bay with her security team, watching as an unknown shuttle approached. The small craft looked as transformed as the New Horizon itself, with the same flowing energy patterns across its hull. The shuttle landed with barely a whisper, settling onto the deck with impossible grace. The airlock cycled, and 5 figures stepped out into the docking bay. They looked human, but something was different about them. They moved with perfect coordination, as if they could sense each other's thoughts. Their clothes were made from materials that seemed to shift and change color as they walked. Most disturbing of all, they all appeared to be in perfect health, no signs of aging, injury, or illness. The man in front stepped forward and smiled. "Captain Park, I am Dae-ho Kim. Thank you for allowing us aboard your ship." As Ji-won looked into his eyes, she noticed something that made her blood run cold. His pupils reflected light like mirrors, and for just a moment, she could swear she saw stars spinning in their depths. "Welcome aboard the Stellar Dawn, Captain Kim," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "We have many questions for you." "And we have many answers," Dae-ho said. "But first we must warn you about what is coming. Humanity is in great danger, and we may be the only ones who can help." Dr. Yuna Choi watched the 5 visitors from the New Horizon as they sat in the briefing room. Something about them made her skin crawl, though she couldn't explain why. They looked human, but there were small details that seemed wrong. Their movements were too smooth, their reflexes too quick, and their eyes held an intelligence that seemed almost alien. Captain Ji-won Park sat across from Dae-ho Kim, trying to get answers. "You said you've been gone for 7 years, but our records show 75. How do you explain this?" Dae-ho smiled, and Yuna noticed that his teeth were perfectly white and straight, too perfect for someone who had been living on a colony world. "Time works differently on Kepler 442c, Captain. The planet exists in what we call a temporal flux field. 7 years for us equals 75 years in normal space." "That's impossible," said Chief Engineer Taewon Shin, one of the other visitors. He was a thin man with silver hair who spoke with casual confidence. "Actually, it's quite simple once you understand quantum consciousness bridges." Yuna felt her scientific training rebel against such casual impossibility. "What are quantum consciousness bridges?" Taewon reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device that looked like a crystal cube. "This should help explain." He placed the cube on the table and touched one corner. Suddenly, the cube began to glow. The air above it shimmered, and then something impossible happened. A small sphere of what looked like liquid metal formed in the air above Taewon's palm. It hung there, spinning slowly, defying gravity. "The device creates a localized gravity well," Taewon explained, as if he were discussing the weather. "It draws energy from quantum vacuum fluctuations using probability cascade engineering." Security Chief Hyun-woo Nam stood up quickly, his hand moving toward his weapon. "What kind of technology is that?" "Nothing dangerous," said So-min Yang, a woman with short black hair who appeared to be in her 30s. "We learned it from our friends on Kepler 442c. They taught us many things." "What friends?" asked Ji-won. So-min's eyes seemed to sparkle as she spoke. "The crystal beings. They don't have names the way we do, but they are the most wonderful creatures you can imagine. They exist in multiple dimensions at the same time." Dr. Yuna felt her scientific mind struggling to process what she was hearing. "You're saying you made contact with alien life?" More than contact, said Yunji Kang, the youngest of the visitors. She appeared to be barely 20 years old with bright eyes and an eager smile. We became friends. They shared their knowledge. With us. What kind of knowledge? Jiwan asked. Yunji looked around the room and then placed her hand flat on the table. Immediately, the lights in the briefing room began to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. I can interface directly with your ship's computer systems, she said. The crystal beings taught us that consciousness and technology are the same thing. Hyunwoo's weapon was now halfway out of its holster. Captain, this is getting dangerous. But Jiwan held up a hand to stop him. Continue, Miss Kang. The beings on Kepler 442c don't understand why humans separate biological life from artificial systems, Yunji explained, taking her hand away from the table. The lights returned to normal. To them, a computer and a brain are just different types of consciousness. The fifth visitor, a middle-aged man named Wanbin Zhou, spoke for the first time. They helped us evolve, Captain Park. We are still human, but we are more than we were before. Evolve how? Asked Dr. Yuna. Wanbin reached into his shirt and pulled out a small crystal pendant. It was no bigger than a coin, but it pulsed with soft blue light. This contains the complete consciousness of my great-grandmother. She died 60 years ago, but she still exists within the quantum matrix. The briefing room fell silent. Yuna felt her heart racing as the implications hit her. You're saying you can preserve human consciousness after death? Not preserve, Wanbin corrected. Continue. She is not dead. She has simply changed form. Would you like to speak with her? Before anyone could answer, the crystal began to glow brighter. A soft, elderly woman's voice filled the room. Hello, dear ones. It is good to meet new people. Hyunwoo's weapon was now fully drawn, though he didn't point it at anyone. This is impossible. Dead people don't talk. I am not dead, young man, the voice from the crystal said with gentle humor. I am simply experiencing existence from a different perspective. It is quite pleasant, actually. Captain Jiwan stared at the crystal in shock. How is this possible? Daeho leaned forward. The crystal beings showed us that consciousness is not limited to biological brains. It can exist in quantum fields, in crystalline matrices, even in the structure of space itself. They helped us learn to transfer our awareness between different forms. Are you still human? Yuna asked, though she was afraid of the answer. That depends on how you define human, said Soman. Our bodies are enhanced, our minds are expanded, and we can do things that seem impossible. But we still think, feel, and dream like humans. We still love and hope and fear. Taewon stood up and walked to the briefing room's viewing window. Look at your ship, Dr. Choi. Look at how you use technology. You build machines to do things your bodies cannot do. You use computers to think faster and remember more. How is what we have done so different? Yuna joined him at the window, looking out at the stars. Because you've changed yourselves. You've become something else. No, said Yunji softly. We've become what humans were always meant to be. The crystal beings have been watching human development for thousands of years. They say we have always been moving toward this moment. What moment? Jiwan asked. Daeho's expression became serious. The moment when humanity must choose its future. You can remain as you are and face extinction, or you can evolve and become something greater. Extinction? Hyunwoo said. What are you talking about? Wanbin's crystal pulsed again, and his great-grandmother's voice returned. The hostile ones are coming, dear ones. The ones who destroy worlds. They have found human space. The Vorthak Empire, Soman explained. They have been expanding across the galaxy for centuries, destroying any species they consider a threat. They have noticed humanity's rapid technological growth. How do you know this? Jiwan demanded. The crystal beings told us, Daeho said. They exist across multiple dimensions and can see events that span vast distances and time periods. A massive Vorthak fleet is assembling at the edge of human space. They plan to eliminate humanity before we become too powerful. The briefing room was quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Yuna felt her world shifting as she tried to process everything she had heard. These visitors claimed to be enhanced humans with impossible technology. in contact with dimensional aliens and bearing news of an approaching invasion. Even if what you're saying is true, Jiwan said finally, why should we trust you? You're not even human anymore. Yoonji smiled sadly. Because we are more human than we ever were before, Captain. The crystal beings enhanced our abilities, but they could not change our hearts. We came back because Earth is still our home and humanity is still our family. And because, added Taewon, we are the only ones who can teach you how to survive what is coming. Dr. Gina Lim, the Stellar Dawn's xenopsychologist, had spent 3 days interviewing the visitors from the New Horizon. What she had learned disturbed her more than any alien contact scenario she had ever studied. These people claimed to be human, but their minds worked in ways that seemed impossible. Tell me about the first contact, she said to Yoonji Kang as they sat in the ship's psychology lab. What happened when you met the crystal beings? Yoonji closed her eyes, and for a moment her face took on an expression of pure peace. It was beautiful, Dr. Lim. We had been on Kepler 442c for about 6 months trying to establish our colony. The planet seemed perfect. Good atmosphere, plenty of water, rich soil, but we kept finding these strange crystal formations. What made them strange? They pulsed with light, but not in any pattern we could understand. Some of the colonists wanted to study them, others wanted to avoid them completely. Captain Kim, Daeho's grandfather, decided we should try to make contact. Dr. Lim made notes on her tablet. How did you attempt contact? Yoonji opened her eyes and Dr. Lim gasped. For just a moment, the young woman's pupils had been replaced by swirling patterns of light. The crystals responded to consciousness, Yoonji explained. When we approached them with open minds, they began to communicate. How? Not with words or sounds. They shared pure thoughts, pure concepts. It was like having someone else's dreams flowing through your mind. But the dreams made perfect sense. Dr. Lim felt a chill. What did they tell you? That consciousness is the fundamental force of the universe. Matter, energy, space, time, these are all just different expressions of consciousness experiencing itself. The crystal beings exist across multiple dimensions because they learned to expand their awareness beyond the limits of physical form. And they taught you to do the same? Yoonji nodded. But carefully, they said that expanding consciousness too quickly could destroy a mind. So they guided us through the process slowly over several years. What was the process like? At first, just meditation and mental exercises, learning to perceive quantum fields, to sense the connections between all living things. Then they began to share their technology. But it wasn't technology as you understand it. Every device they use is a living extension of their consciousness. Dr. Lim put down her tablet and looked directly at Yoonji. Are you still human? The young woman was quiet for a long moment. I have human memories, human emotions, human dreams, but I can also perceive dimensions of reality that normal humans cannot access. I can interface with quantum systems using only my thoughts. I can sense the consciousness patterns of other beings across vast distances. She paused. What do you think makes someone human, Dr. Lim? Before Dr. Lim could answer, the ship's intercom crackled to life. All senior officers to the main docking bay immediately. We have a priority message from Earth Fleet Command. In the docking bay, Captain Jiwon Park watched as Admiral Sun Hee-bae's face appeared on the large communication screen. The Admiral looked tired and worried with deep lines around her eyes. Captain Park, the Admiral said, I've been reviewing your reports about the New Horizon. This situation has caused quite a stir on Earth. I understand, Admiral. The implications are staggering. That's an understatement. The Federation Council is split into 3 factions. Some want the enhanced humans quarantined for study. Others believe they represent humanity's future. And a third group thinks they might not be human at all. Daeho Kim, who had been standing nearby with his companions, stepped forward. Admiral Bae, may I speak? The Admiral's eyes narrowed. You must be Captain Kim. Yes, you may speak. Admiral, we understand your concerns. What we have become challenges everything humanity believes about consciousness, technology, and evolution. But we are still your people. We still care about Earth, about human civilization, about our families and friends. Then why do you look so different? Why can you do impossible things? Taewon Shin joined the conversation. Because consciousness is more flexible than you realize, Admiral. What you call impossible is simply technology that works with consciousness instead of against it. Show me, the Admiral said. Taewon looked at Captain Park, who nodded. He walked over to one of the docking bay's massive cargo containers, placed his hands on its surface, and closed his eyes. Slowly, the 5-ton container began to rise into the air. The container has no anti-gravity systems, Taewon explained as the massive object floated gently above their heads. I am interfacing with the quantum fields that surround all matter, convincing them to behave differently. That's impossible, Admiral Bay said, but her voice carried wonder as well as fear. No, Admiral, said So-Min Yang. That's evolution. Dr. Jianwoo Park, Earth's leading quantum physicist, appeared on the screen beside the Admiral. I've been analyzing the tissue samples you sent us, Captain Park. The cellular structure of these individuals has been fundamentally altered. Their neurons are integrated with quantum crystalline matrices that shouldn't be able to exist in normal space. What does that mean? Asked Captain Park. It means they're not entirely human anymore, Dr. Park replied. But more disturbing, we've detected similar quantum patterns in some of your crew members who have had extended contact with them. The docking bay fell silent. Captain Park felt her heart racing. Are you saying it's contagious? Not contagious in the traditional sense, Dr. Park explained. But prolonged exposure to their quantum field seems to be triggering similar changes in normal humans. The transformation appears to be spreading through quantum entanglement. Hyun-Woo Nam drew his weapon. Captain, we need to isolate these people immediately. But Yoonji stepped forward, her eyes now glowing with soft blue light. Security Chief Nam, please scan yourself. Hyun-Woo looked confused but activated his personal medical scanner. The device beeped, then displayed readings that made him stagger. This can't be right. My neural activity is off the charts. The change has already begun in you, Yoonji said gently. In all of you who have spent time with us. But don't be afraid. We can guide you through the process safely. What if we don't want to change? Asked Dr. Lim. Wanbin Zhou's crystal pendant began to glow, and his great-grandmother's voice filled the docking bay. Dear child, change is the only constant in the universe. You can fight it and suffer, or embrace it and grow. But at what cost? Captain Park demanded. What do we lose if we become like you? Daeho smiled sadly. Nothing important, Captain. You lose limitations, fears, the barriers that separate you from the rest of the universe. But you keep everything that truly matters. Your memories, your love, your dreams, your essential human spirit. Admiral Bay's voice cut through the discussion. This conversation is over. Captain Park, you are ordered to return to Earth immediately with these individuals. The Federation Council will decide how to handle this situation. With respect, Admiral, Daeho said. There may not be time for long debates. The Vorthak fleet will arrive within months. Humanity needs to be ready. How do you know about the Vorthak? Dr. Park asked from the screen. So-Min closed her eyes and spoke in a voice that seemed to come from far away. Because I can see them gathering at the edge of your space. Hundreds of ships, weapons that can crack planets, soldiers bred for conquest. They have decided that humanity has become too dangerous to allow to survive. The communication screen flickered, and for a moment, everyone in the docking bay could see what So-Min was seeing. A vast fleet of dark ships moving through space toward human territory. How is that possible? Admiral Bay whispered. The crystal beings taught us to perceive across dimensions, So-Min explained. Past, present, and future are all visible if you know how to look. Captain Park looked around at her crew, seeing the EU some fear and confusion in their eyes. But she also saw something else, curiosity, wonder, and perhaps hope. Admiral, she said finally, I think we need to listen to what they have to offer. The Federation Council chamber on Earth had never seen such heated debate. Admiral Kyung-soo stood at the central podium, his face red with anger as he addressed the assembled representatives of humanity's colonies. "These creatures are no longer human," he shouted, pounding his fist on the podium. "They have been infected by alien technology transformed into something we don't understand. They pose a clear threat to human genetic integrity." Across the chamber, Earth's chief scientific advisor Han-Byul-oh rose to respond. "Admiral Soo, you speak of threats, but what about opportunities? These enhanced humans have solved problems that our greatest scientists couldn't even approach. Their technology could revolutionize everything we know about physics, medicine, and space travel." "At what cost?" Admiral Soo shot back. "Dr. Park's reports show that this transformation is spreading to anyone who spends time with them. Soon we could all be infected, all changed into something alien." Representative Min Ji-an from the Centauri colonies stood up. "Perhaps that wouldn't be such a bad thing. Our current technology has its limits. We're struggling to defend ourselves. Against hostile aliens, our energy systems are inefficient, and we're still confined to a tiny corner of the galaxy. So you would throw away millions of years of human evolution for the promise of alien powers?" Admiral Soo demanded. The debate was interrupted when the chamber's main screen activated, showing Captain Ji-won Park aboard the Stellar Dawn. "Council, members, I'm transmitting a priority message from the enhanced humans. They say it's urgent." The screen shifted to show Dae-ho Kim and his companions standing in the ship's briefing room. But something was different about them now. Their forms seemed to shimmer slightly as if they were not quite solid. "Members of the Federation Council," Dae-ho said, his voice carrying clearly across space. "We apologize for interrupting your debate, but time is running out. The Vorthak advance fleet has been detected by your long-range sensors." Admiral Soo looked confused. "What advance fleet? Our sensors show nothing." So Min-yang stepped forward, her eyes now glowing with brilliant blue light. "Admiral, check your deep space monitoring station at Sector 77 Alpha. You will find 3 Vorthak scout ships observing your defenses." The Admiral quickly activated his personal communicator. "Command, this is Admiral Soo. I need an immediate sensor sweep of Sector 77 Alpha." There was a pause, then a voice crackled back. "Admiral, we're detecting 3 unknown ships in that sector. They appear to be using some kind of stealth technology. How did you know they were there?" The council chamber erupted in shocked voices. Admiral Soo stared at the screen in disbelief. "How could you possibly know about ships our sensors couldn't detect?" "Because we can perceive across dimensions," Yunji Kang explained. "The crystal beings taught us to see beyond the limits of normal space-time. We can observe events happening thousands of light-years away, in real time." Dr. Geon-woo Park, who had been quiet until now, stood up slowly. "I've completed my analysis of the tissue samples. The quantum crystalline structures in their cells are more complex than anything we've ever seen. They appear to exist in multiple dimensional states simultaneously." "What does that mean in practical terms?" asked Representative On. "It means they can access information and energy from quantum dimensions that normal humans cannot perceive. Their consciousness has been expanded beyond the boundaries of 3-dimensional space." Han-Byul-oh leaned forward. "Dr. Park, in your scientific opinion, is this transformation beneficial or harmful?" Dr. Park was quiet for a moment, then looked directly at the camera. "In my 30 years of studying quantum physics, I've never seen anything like this. These individuals have achieved a level of consciousness integration that we thought was purely theoretical. If they're telling the truth about the approaching threat, this transformation might be humanity's only chance for survival." "And if they're lying?" Admiral Soo asked. Before Dr. Park could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the council chamber. Emergency lights flashed red as a military aide rushed to Admiral Soo's side. "Admiral," the aide whispered urgently, "we're receiving reports from the outer colonies. Vorthak ships have been spotted throughout human space. It appears they've been watching us for some time." Admiral Soo's face went pale. "How many ships?" "Hundreds, sir, maybe thousands. They're not attacking yet, but they're clearly preparing for something major." On the screen, Dae-ho nodded sadly. "The main fleet will arrive in 47 days, Admiral. 200,000 Vorthak warships armed with quantum disruptors and dimensional weaponry. Your current technology cannot stop them. Then what do you suggest? Representative An asked. That humanity makes a choice, and said Taewan Shin. Remain as you are and face extinction, or evolve and gain the power to defend yourselves. Evolve how? Demanded Admiral Su. Wanbin Zhou's crystal pendant began to glow, and his great-grandmother's voice filled the chamber. By accepting the gift, the crystal beings offer, dear ones, by allowing your consciousness to expand beyond its current limitations. What exactly are you proposing? Asked Hambyul. O Unji stepped closer to the camera. We can teach willing volunteers to undergo the transformation process. It takes several days and it must be done carefully to avoid damaging the mind. But those who complete it will gain abilities that seem impossible to normal humans. How many people would need to be transformed? Dr. Park asked. Not everyone, Daeho replied. Enhanced humans can share their abilities with others through quantum field resonance. A few thousand transformed individuals could protect entire planets. Admiral Su stood up abruptly. This is insane. You're asking us to voluntarily infect our people with alien technology. No, Admiral, Soman said, her voice gentle but firm. We're asking you to save humanity by helping it become more than it currently is. The council chamber fell silent as everyone considered the impossible choice before them. Finally, Representative An spoke. If we refuse, how long would humanity survive against this Vorthak fleet? Daeho closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them with a sad expression. 3 days after they arrive, maybe 4 if your fleet fights well. And if we accept your offer, then humanity becomes something the Vorthak have never encountered before, something they cannot defeat. Dr. Park stood up slowly. I volunteer to be the first test subject. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Admiral Su stared at the elderly scientist in disbelief. Dr. Park, you can't be serious. I am completely serious, Admiral. I've spent my entire career studying consciousness and quantum physics. If these people have found a way to merge the two, I need to understand it. The transformation is irreversible, Daeho warned. Once you begin the process, there is no going back. Dr. Park smiled. Admiral, I'm 73 years old. I've lived a full life studying the mysteries of the universe. If I can help save humanity by becoming part of an even greater mystery, then that seems like a worthy way to spend my remaining years. On the screen, Yunji smiled warmly. Dr. Park, we would be honored to guide you through the process. But understand, you will still be yourself, just expanded beyond your current limitations. When can we begin? Dr. Park asked. Admiral Su stepped forward. Council, I must protest this course of action. We're talking about fundamentally altering human nature, based on the word of beings who may not even be human anymore. Admiral, said Representative An quietly, do we really have a choice? If they're right about this invasion, our options are limited. The vote was close. 51% in favor of allowing volunteers to undergo the transformation process. As the council session ended, Admiral Su approached Dr. Park. Are you really prepared to become something alien? He asked. Dr. Park looked up at the ceiling where stars were visible through the chamber's transparent dome. Admiral, humans have always been explorers. We've crossed oceans, climbed mountains, traveled to other worlds. This is just the next step in that journey. But what if you're wrong? What if this destroys everything that makes you human? Dr. Park smiled. Then at least I'll die trying to save my species. That seems pretty human to me. The transformation chamber aboard the New Horizon looked nothing like any human technology Dr. Jianwu Park had ever seen. Crystalline formations grew from the walls like living trees, pulsing with soft light that seemed to respond to his thoughts. Taeho Kim and Yoonji Kang stood beside him as he prepared for the process that would change him forever. Are you ready, Dr. Park? Daeho asked gently. The elderly scientist nodded, though his hands trembled slightly. I've spent my whole life studying consciousness. Now I get to experience it from an entirely new perspective. Yoonji placed a warm hand on his shoulder. Remember, Dr. Park, the transformation enhances what you already are. It doesn't replace your personality or memories. You will still be yourself, just with expanded capabilities. What will I feel during the process? At first, nothing unusual, Deho explained. You'll lie down on the crystal matrix, and it will begin to scan your neural patterns. Then you'll start to perceive dimensions of reality that normal humans cannot access. It can be overwhelming at first. Dr. Park lay down on what looked like a bed made of living crystal. The surface was warm and surprisingly comfortable. As soon as he settled into position, the crystals began to glow brighter. I can feel something, he said, his voice filled with wonder. It's like having my thoughts expanded in all directions. Back on Earth, Federation Security Chief Jamin Yang was making a disturbing discovery in the archives deep beneath the capital city. He had been investigating the enhanced humans' claims about the crystal beings when he found something that changed everything. The artifact was small and unremarkable, a piece of crystal no larger than his thumb, found in the ruins of an ancient temple in Egypt. But when he ran it through the quantum scanners, the readings were identical to the technology aboard the New Horizon. This can't be right, he muttered, checking the artifact's dating information. According to the records, it was over 3,000 years old. He quickly pulled up more files, searching for similar artifacts. What he found made his blood run cold. Crystalline objects with identical quantum signatures had been discovered at archaeological sites around the world. Some were thousands of years old, others dated back tens of thousands of years. The implications were staggering. If these readings were accurate, the crystal beings had been influencing human development for millennia. Meanwhile, aboard the Stellar Dawn, Captain Jiwon Park was dealing with a crisis of her own. 3 more of her crew members had begun showing signs of transformation without any direct contact with the enhanced humans. Captain, reported Dr. Yuna Choi, the quantum field effects are spreading faster than we anticipated. Lieutenant Sorahan, Engineer Jae-hoon Kim, and Communications Specialist Young-ho Lee are all showing neural pattern changes. Are they in danger? Jiwon asked. I don't think so. Their vital signs are actually improving. Better reflexes, enhanced cognitive function, increased resistance to radiation. But they're becoming something more than human. In the ship's medical bay, Lieutenant Sora Han sat up on the examination table and looked at her hands in amazement. Doctor, I can see the quantum fields around your medical equipment. They're beautiful, like rivers of light flowing through everything. Dr. Choi checked her scanner readings. Her neural activity is off the charts, but she seems perfectly healthy. Better than healthy, actually. I feel incredible, Sora said. Like I've been living in a fog my whole life, and now I can finally see clearly. Captain Park activated the ship's intercom. Dr. Park, this is Captain Park. How is the transformation proceeding? Dr. Park's voice came back, but it sounded different. Deeper, more resonant. Captain, it's indescribable. I can perceive the quantum structure of the universe itself. The crystal beings exist across multiple dimensions simultaneously, and they've been watching humanity develop for thousands of years. Watching us. Why? Because consciousness is the rarest and most precious thing in the universe, Captain. Most species never develop beyond basic awareness, but humans have something special. The ability to grow, to question, to reach beyond our limitations. Suddenly, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. Captain Park rushed to the bridge where she found her crew staring at the main display in shock. Captain, said Communications Officer Min-ho Lee, we're receiving a transmission from the outer system. It's the Vorthak. The main screen filled with the image of a creature that seemed to be made of living metal and shadow. Its eyes glowed red in a face that had too many angles to be natural. Humans of the vessel Stellar Dawn, the Vorthak, Commander said in a voice like grinding metal. You harbor infected individuals who have been contaminated by the crystal plague. Surrender them to us immediately, or face destruction. Captain Park stepped forward. This is Captain Jiwon Park. We don't recognize your authority in human space. The Vorthak commander's expression didn't change. Human space is forfeit. Your species has been infected by the crystal beings, who seek to spread their consciousness plague throughout the galaxy. We have come to stop this contamination before it spreads further. The crystal beings are peaceful, Jiwan protested. They've only tried to help us. Help? The Vorthak commander let out a sound that might have been laughter. They transform entire species, stripping away their natural identity and replacing it with their own consciousness matrix. Thousands of civilizations have fallen to their influence. That's not true, came Deho's voice over the intercom. The crystal beings preserve consciousness, they don't replace it. The Vorthak commander's eyes flared brighter. The infected speaks, human. You are no longer what you were born to be. You are a vessel for alien thoughts, alien purposes. I am more human than I ever was before, Deho replied calmly. The crystal beings enhanced my capabilities, but they couldn't change my heart or my love for my species. Lies. The crystal plague must be stopped. Humanity will be cleansed of this infection. The transmission ended and the bridge fell silent. Captain Park looked around at her crew, seeing fear and determination in equal measure. Captain, said Dr. Choi over the intercom, I'm reading massive energy signatures approaching from the edge of the system. It looks like the Vorthak brought friends. The main display shifted to show the outer system, where hundreds of dark ships were emerging from warp. Each vessel was larger than anything in the human fleet, bristling with weapons that seemed to bend light around them. How long until they reach us? Jiwon asked. At their current speed, about 6 hours, reported Navigation Officer Sun Hee-oh. And how long until our reinforcements arrive? The nearest Federation ships are 2 days away, Captain. On the medical bay monitors, they could see Dr. Park's transformation reaching its final stages. The elderly scientist was surrounded by a cocoon of crystalline energy, his body changing at the cellular level. Captain, came a new voice over the intercom, young, female, and speaking with an authority that seemed impossible. It was Hyung No, a junior engineer who had been showing early signs of transformation. Yes, Hyung? I can see the probability. Streams, Captain. The Vorthak planned to destroy this ship in 4 hours and 37 minutes. But there are other possibilities, other futures where humanity survives and grows. What do we need to do? We need to choose evolution over extinction, Captain. We need to become more than we are. As if in response to her words, the crystalline cocoon around Dr. Park began to dissolve. The man who emerged looked exactly the same, but his eyes now held depths that seemed to contain entire galaxies. Captain Park, he said, his voice carrying clearly throughout the ship. I understand now. The crystal beings aren't trying to change us into something alien. They're helping us become what we were always meant to be. And what's that, Dr. Park? The guardians of consciousness in the universe, Captain. The protectors of all thinking beings. The next step in evolution itself. Outside the ship, the Vorthak fleet continued its approach, weapons charging for an attack that would either destroy humanity or force it to transcend its current limitations. The choice was no longer between human and alien, it was between extinction and evolution. The Federation fleet that arrived to defend human space was the largest in history. Over 300 ships carrying humanity's most advanced weapons. Admiral Changmin Lee commanded the force from his flagship, the massive battlecruiser Earth's Pride. But as he watched the approaching Vorthak fleet on his tactical display, he knew they were severely outmatched. Admiral, reported his tactical officer, enemy fleet consists of over 2,000 vessels. Each ship is approximately 3 times the size of our largest battlecruiser. Weapons analysis? Unknown technology, sir. Our sensors can't penetrate. Their hull armor and their weapons appear to fire some kind of quantum disruptor beam. Admiral Lee studied the display grimly. In 30 years of military service, he had never faced odds like these. All ships prepare for combat. We may not be able to win this fight, but we'll make them pay for every inch of human space. Aboard the Stellar Dawn, Captain Jiwon Park was witnessing something that challenged everything she thought she knew about reality. Dr. Gyeonwoo Park, now fully transformed, stood in the ship's cargo bay with his eyes closed and his arms spread wide. Around him, the air itself seemed to be alive with swirling patterns of light. Dr. Park, she called out, what are you doing? Connecting with the enhanced humans throughout the fleet, Captain, he replied without opening his eyes. We're forming a consciousness network that spans multiple dimensions. As he spoke, other figures began to materialize in the cargo bay. Translucent images of Daeho Kim, Yoonji Kang, and dozens of other enhanced humans from across the human fleet. They stood in perfect formation, their minds linked across vast distances. The Vorthak attack will begin in 17 minutes, announced Hyung No, who had completed her own transformation just hours before, but they don't understand what they're facing. On the bridge of the Earth's Pride, Admiral Lee received an unexpected communication request. Admiral, this is Captain Yanwoo Song of the Fighter Squadron Lightning Wing. I need to speak with you urgently. Go ahead, Captain Song. Sir, I volunteered for the enhancement process 6 hours ago. I'm requesting permission to engage the enemy with my modified fighter. Captain, your fighter can't possibly stand against Vorthak battleships. With respect, Admiral, you don't understand what we've become. Please allow me to demonstrate. Before Admiral Lee could respond, Captain Song's fighter launched from the fleet and accelerated toward the approaching Vorthak ships. But something was wrong with the fighter's trajectory. It seemed to be moving in multiple directions at once, appearing and disappearing like a ghost. Tactical, are you tracking Captain Song's fighter? Sir, sensors show the fighter in 17 different positions simultaneously. It's as if he exists in multiple dimensions at the same time. On the tactical display, they watched in amazement as Song's single fighter approached the massive Vorthak fleet. The enemy ships opened fire with their quantum disruptors, but the beams passed harmlessly through empty space where the fighter had been moments before. Admiral Lee, came Song's voice over the communication system. The enhanced consciousness allows me to perceive probability streams and navigate through quantum dimensions. I can see where their weapons will fire before they fire them. The fighter, somehow existing in multiple positions at once, began its attack run on the lead Vorthak battleship. When Song fired his weapons, something impossible happened. The energy beams seemed to punch through the enemy ship's armor as if it were paper, causing massive explosions throughout the vessel. How is that possible? Admiral Lee demanded. Enhanced weapons interface directly with quantum fields, Song explained as his fighter danced between enemy fire. We're not just shooting energy at their hull. We're convincing the quantum structure of their armor that it doesn't exist. Within minutes, Song had disabled 3 Vorthak battleships and was moving on to a 4th. The enemy fleet, clearly confused by their inability to target the enhanced fighter, began to alter their tactics. All ships, came a broadcast from the Vorthak fleet commander, deploy consciousness dampening fields, prevent the infected humans from accessing quantum dimensions. Suddenly, Song's fighter stopped its impossible movements and became visible in normal space. Admiral, they're using some kind of suppression technology. I can't access the enhanced abilities anymore. All Federation ships, Admiral Lee ordered, move to support Captain Song. But before the fleet could respond, something extraordinary happened. Throughout human space on every ship and station, people who had undergone partial transformation began to glow with soft blue light. Dr. Jimin Han, Earth's most conservative scientist who had volunteered for enhancement just days before, spoke from his laboratory on Luna Station. Admiral Lee, this is Dr. Han. The consciousness dampening field only affects individuals. But if we link together, across the fleet, enhanced humans began joining their minds in a vast network of consciousness. The combined mental power of thousands of transformed individuals created a quantum field that overwhelmed the Vorthak suppression technology. Captain, Song's fighter suddenly reappeared in multiple dimensions, but now he wasn't alone. Dozens of other enhanced pilots joined him, their fighters creating a swarm of quantum possibilities that the Vorthak couldn't track or target. Impossible, came the voice of the Vorthak fleet commander. The Crystal Plague has never produced this level of coordination. From the bridge of the New Horizon, Daeho Kim responded, that's because you've never encountered humans before. We don't just accept enhancement, we improve it. The enhanced fighters began their attack in earnest, moving through dimensions like schools of fish swimming through water. Each ship could exist in multiple positions simultaneously, strike from impossible angles, and disappear before the enemy could retaliate. But the real surprise came when the enhanced humans aboard the Federation capital ships began to work their transformation on the vessels themselves. Engineer Dongmin Cho, now serving as a crystalline technical specialist, placed his hands on the Earth's Pride's main computer core. "Admiral," he called out, "with your permission, I'd like to upgrade your ship." "Upgrade how?" "By extending the consciousness network to include your ship's AI systems. Your vessel can become a living extension of our enhanced awareness." Admiral Lee hesitated for only a moment. "Do it." The transformation was immediate and stunning. The Earth's Pride began to move with impossible grace, dodging Vorthak weapons fire with the same quantum-dimensional abilities as the enhanced fighters. Its weapons, now guided by enhanced consciousness, began striking Vorthak ships with devastating accuracy. "Admiral," reported his tactical officer in amazement, "our shields are somehow existing in multiple dimensions. Enemy fire is passing right through them." Other Federation ships throughout the fleet began undergoing similar transformations as enhanced humans interfaced with their systems. What had started as a hopeless battle was becoming a rout. The Vorthak fleet commander made one final desperate broadcast. "All ships retreat immediately. The crystal plague has evolved beyond our ability to contain. Alert the Hegemony Council. Humanity has become a species-level threat." As the surviving Vorthak ships fled human space, Admiral Lee found himself staring at tactical displays he couldn't understand. His ship existed in normal space and several quantum dimensions simultaneously. His weapons could strike targets across multiple probability streams. His crew included both normal humans and enhanced individuals who could perceive the future and manipulate reality with their thoughts. "Admiral," said Dr. Park over the communication system, "the immediate threat has passed, but this is only the beginning." "Beginning of what?" "Humanity's new role in the galaxy. The crystal beings have guided many species through this transformation over millions of years. We are now part of an ancient network of consciousness that spans the entire universe." Captain Jiwon Park, watching from the bridge of the Stellar Dawn, felt a mix of awe and uncertainty. "Dr. Park, are we still human?" "More human than ever, Captain. The enhancement doesn't change what we are. It reveals what we've always had the potential to become." Across human space, the transformation continued. Some people chose to undergo full enhancement, gaining abilities that seemed like magic. Others remained in their original form but benefited from the protection and technology of their enhanced neighbors. Children born to enhanced parents showed remarkable abilities from birth, but they still laughed, played, and dreamed like children always had. Within a year, humanity had established new colonies that existed across multiple dimensions. They made contact with other enhanced species throughout the galaxy, forming alliances based on shared consciousness rather than political treaties. They began to seek out species facing their own evolutionary crossroads, offering the same choice that had been given to them. The Vorthak Empire and other aggressive species learned to avoid human space, unable to comprehend or combat beings who could exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Captain Jiwon Park, now serving as humanity's first hybrid admiral, stood on the bridge of her transformed ship and looked out at the stars. Somewhere, among those distant suns, were other species struggling with the same questions humanity had faced. What does it mean to be alive, to be conscious, to grow beyond the limitations of biological existence?